So I own half of Sony's publishing, and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it. But I just did good business, you know.
Tell him! Tell him, Michael! Tell the story!
But, so, the way they get revenge is to try and destroy my album. But I've always said, you know, good art never dies. Thank you. I love Unbreakable. You know. And Tommy Mottola is a devil.
And Tommy Mottola is a devil.
Respect!
I'm not supposed to say what I'm going to say right now, but I have to let you in on a secret.
Say it.
Please don't videotape what I'm going to say, okay? Turn that off, please. No, what? I don't mind. Tape it.
Marco is getting gangster today! Yeah.
Mariah Carey, after divorcing Tommy, came to me crying. She was crying so bad I had to hold her. And she said to me that this is an evil man. And Michael, this man follows me, she said. He taps her phones. And he's very, very evil, and she doesn't trust him. And he is a horrible human being. And we have to continue our drive until he's terminated.
Oh! There you go!
We can't allow him to do this to great artistry. We just can't. I just want you to know I appreciate everything you've done. You've been amazing. You're so loyal, Diana. Everybody, Waldo, all the people here, I love you all. You've been amazing.
Thank you!
I love you. But still, I promise you, the best is yet to come. These will be my final show performances in London. This will be it. This is it. And when I say this is it, it really means this is it.
An involuntary manslaughter, a felony, Dr. Murray. How do you plead?
Your Honor, I am an innocent man. I therefore plead not guilty.
Thank you.
I truly feel that Conrad Murray is simply the fall guy. This was definitely something that was premeditated, that they had planned to do, and they planned to take my brother out, and my brother knew it, and that's why he told me repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly that this was going to happen to him. He explained it to me. He explained it's because of my catalog, which is my publishing, and they're after it, and they want it, and they want their hands on it, and they want to take it away from me. So Michael developed this love-hate relationship with his catalog. I don't want it because it's going to destroy my life. No, it's mine. I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to let them rip it apart and take it from me. This went back and forth. I began to see his personality change. Michael had notes in his house saying how he hates John Branca, he hates Randy Phillips, he doesn't want them around, he'll never fly with them. He just went on and on expressing how he felt about these people. These people were all involved. Mind you, the will, I truly believe and I know that the will is fake. Because Michael was in New York when the will was signed, and they say he signed it in LA, and he did not. And they know this. But yet they put themselves as the executors on this estate. There was another guy that was in the will, Barry Siegel, but he pleasantly removed himself from it. Why would he do that? Because he knew that it was fake and he wasn't going to get involved in the skullduggery. That's why.
All right, peace, y'all. Peace. In this video, I'm gonna be talking about my man's Michael Jackson, man. There's a lot of things that were that transpired in Mike's situation that I think the higher ups were involved in. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all may know, some of y'all may not know the business side of why Michael Jackson was basically taken out of here. All right, but I'm gonna break it down into detail and explain to y'all, you know, in a simpler form, exactly what happened. So you know, people have an understanding on what's going on. Mike was in the game at an early age. Okay. He came in the game at a very young age. I think he was discovered by Diana Ross. It's what the biographies always depict in the same story. So I'm guessing Diana Ross was the one that actually discovered him at a talent show, things of that nature. And Joe Jackson wound up being their manager. Okay? All right. So fast forward, Mike is doing music with the Jackson 5s. You know, he's getting popular, you know, he becomes a household name, you know, and, you know, I don't know how old he was when he got in the music business or when they signed to Motown, but he was really young. He was really young at that time, okay, and, you know, around this time, the Beatles was running things, okay, when Michael Jackson came in, the Jackson 5s came in the industry, the Beatles was just on their way on a downslide after they said that thing about Jesus Christ. Okay, if y'all don't remember, the Beatles said John Lennon actually went out the window and said the Beatles are actually bigger than Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? Meaning that this was the influence they had on the youth at the time. All right, and understand something. Every last one of them were participating in occult activities, but I'll get to this down the line, and I want y'all to remember this. So, fast forward, right? Mike, you know, I guess somebody came and told Mike that he had potential, you know, to be a solo artist, all right? And Mike took that into consideration and no longer wanted to participate in the Jackson 5s, okay? At this point, Mike is realizing that, you know, he's who the people want. He's the people's favorite. He's the lead singer. You know, they do this to all the groups, man. They do this to they did it with Destiny's Child. Who else, man? Everybody, man. You name it. You know, any type of R&B group where the Drew Hill. You know, these type of groups, when you come in together. Their whole process is divide and conquer, okay? Who's going to be the chosen one to sell their soul? And it has to be the lead singer because you're famous, okay? You're the one that everybody sees. All right, so now, you know, Mikey was getting that, he's starting to get a taste of, you know, fame now. You know, he did the album Off the Wall, which did pretty well. It did pretty well. But I believe this was where Mike's turning point was. That Off the Wall album didn't do what he thought it would do, right? So this is where these things start to take place. You know what I'm saying? Where people say, all right, well, it's not, I mentioned this already, where it's not picking up fast enough. You know, and you know, the individual is like, man, I want to be famous. I want to be rich. How can I get my music to be better where people like it? You know, and that's when your boy Paul McCartney came knocking. You know what I'm saying? He came knocking to answer Michael's request. All right. Paul McCartney, you know, known Satanists. These the Beatles were known Satanists, man. They practiced the occult. They followed Aleister Crowley. I'm going to just play this clip and let y'all determine what it is.
Millions were seduced by the music and image of the Beatles to trade in their biblical values for Crowleyan ideals.
I had this theory that the Beatles were actually the four horsemen of the apocalypse. You know, that insofar as they changed the entire face of the planet.
If people know it or not, they've all been influenced by the Beatles, you know, in our generation, because we've grown up having that be a normal part of our culture.
Reluctance to go back to an old deferential culture is exactly, you could see, what the Beatles represent. Because if the Beatles were one thing, they were disrespectful.
The 1960s were the perfect time for Satan to introduce his revolution. He had already established his groundwork through men like Harry Hay and Kinsey and Timothy Leary. Both Kennedy and Martin Luther King were shot dead, and the environment was ripe for revolution as the baby boomer generation was living in a spiritual vacuum.
What was happening at the same time was, of course, the boomer generation growing up. So you suddenly had a very large, very young population, really for the first time. And the music just fed into that.
Yoko Ono said that the Beatles were not aware of all that was coming through them. She said they were like four mediums at a seance who had gathered together, and a spirit appeared and channeled through them. We have already noted that John Lennon summed up the Beatle revolution when he quoted Lester Crowley and said that the whole Beatle idea was, quote, do what thou wilt. The Beatles brought this message through the music to the masses, and they gobbled it up.
It sort of set fire to a whole lot of things, gases that were ready to be ignited. And it said, yes, you can do things. Come on, let's just do it. Let's take over. Let's join this ride. The Beatles came along and everything changed. Suddenly it became about young people will decide what goes on. Young people will decide how we dress. Young people will decide the music we make. And all of that culture, which we now take for granted, happened for the first time then.
I think the music of the Beatles had a phenomenal effect upon the whole world.
It was through the influence of the Beatles that millions of youth around the world were almost overnight turned away from Christ to the gurus of the East. Gurus like the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi were given a platform to pass out mantras like candy to the youth. Hippie youth began repeating these mantras, believing that they were in some way scientific, when in fact they were calling out on the names of Hindu gods and demons. Yoga is actually a word that means to yoke and speaks of yoking with pagan gods. God's word warns that these false gods are actually demonic beings, and Jesus Christ warned against the repetitious praying of the pagans.
Well, before the Beatles came around, I don't think Indian spirituality and things like that were an everyday part of Western culture. It was entirely the hippies, thanks to the Beatles, who decided to, go to India and, discover yoga and meditation. Now we all have yoga on every corner. There was never anything like that before they came along.
They really wanted a spiritual revolution, a transformation.
This revolution was challenged after John Lennon claimed to be more popular than Jesus Christ. This was a wake-up call to many young people around the world as they took to the streets and publicly destroyed their Beatle albums.
Don't you forget what the Beatles have said. Don't forget to take your Beatle records and your Beatle paraphernalia to any one of our 14 pickup points.
Sadly, this wake-up call did not last very long, as society at large fell back asleep, and the Beatles would launch their next assault with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. John Lennon couldn't have made it any clearer when speaking of the Beatles' success and stating, quote, "I sold my soul to the devil." Yoko Ono also made a pact with Satan for Lennon and herself not long before Lennon's death. Albert Goldman reported in his book, The Lives of John Lennon, quote, "Finally, it was time to consummate all these spells by making a living sacrifice and signing a pact with the devil. For Lena was not a white witch. She was the real thing, a practitioner of black magic. There was no knowing what she planned to do to seal the bond with Lucifer. All she would say was that a witch's moon was nigh, and they had to make ready for the sacrifice." Lena said, quote, "We've got to make a sacrifice with the blood of an innocent to the one who has the power." They sacrificed an animal to Satan, and Yoko ended up paying the Satanist $60,000. The price, though, would be far more for serving Satan. It would cost John Lennon his life and his soul. Yoko Ono said of the Beatles, quote, "Something did happen there. It was as if several people gathered around a table and a ghost appeared. It was that kind of communication. So they were like mediums in a way. It was more than four people. As I said, they were like mediums. They weren't conscious of all they were saying, but it was coming through them." In his book, Spaniard in the Works, John Lennon portrayed Jesus Christ as a, quote, "garlic-eating, stinking, little, yellow, greasy, fastest blank Catholic Spaniard," end quote. When Lennon tried to defend his boasting that he was more popular than Jesus, he stated,
I think as Beatles, as though those other Beatles, like other people say it, I just said they are having more influence on kids and things than anything else, including Jesus.
Lennon, though, said much more when you look at his comment in total. Quote, Christianity will go. It will vanish and shrink. I needn't argue that. I'm right and I will be proven right. We're more popular than Jesus now, end quote. John Lennon and the Beatles were fully Antichrist. In Lennon's book, Spaniard in the Works, he speaks of, quote, white trash Christian, and he blasphemes the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit by speaking of, quote, the Father, Sock, and Mickey Most. Beatle press manager Derek Taylor admitted, it's incredible, absolutely incredible. Here are these 4 boys from Liverpool. They're rude, they're profane, they're vulgar, and they've taken over the world. It's as if they founded a new religion. They're completely Antichrist. I mean, I'm Antichrist as well, but they're so Antichrist they shock me, which isn't an easy thing to do. John Lennon described the frightening experiences which he had that sound much like classical demonic possession to the Beatles' official biographer, Hunter Davies. Lennon stated, quote, if I'm on my own for 3 days, doing nothing, I almost leave myself completely. I can see my hands and realize they're moving, but it's a robot that's doing it. It's frightening, really. He went on to state also, quote, I felt like a hollow temple filled with many spirits, each one passing through me, each inhabiting me a little time, and then leaving to be replaced by another spirit. As Neil Young sang, there truly is more to the picture than meets the eye in the rock and roll industry. Satan is clearly using rock musicians as his pawns to advance his kingdom. According to rock critic Albert Goldman, these so-called sub-personalities that use Lennon's body, quote, manifested themselves vividly in his music, end quote. In John Lennon's song, Number 9 Dream, he sings about being in contact with the spirit world and magic being in the air and music touching his soul like a river of sound. He talks about hearing their voices, and then something strange happens in the song. You hear something that sounds backwards. Then when turned around, you hear what it represents, the voices of the spirits saying, John, John. John Lennon said, quote, but my joy is when you're like possessed, like a medium. You know, I'll be sitting around and it'll come in the middle of the night or at a time when you don't want to do it. That's the exciting part. I don't know who the blank wrote it. I'm just sitting here and the whole blank song comes out. So you're like driven and you find yourself over on a piano or a guitar and you put it down because it's been given to you or whatever it is you tune into.
Yeah, so Mike was, Paul McCartney had came into Mike's life and helped him out. Okay, he featured Mike on his album. You know, once you take the oath, doors start to open up for you. Okay, and he featured Mike on his album on the song "Say Say Say." Okay. And this is where Mike, like I said, you know, when you take these transitions, they call it being reborn, okay? So at this point, you're going to see Mike's skin tone starting to change. He's getting lighter. He's looking different, okay? He's still got the same features, but he's looking different. He's getting lighter around this time, all right? And everybody knows that Mike bleached his skin, okay? But for a long time, the story was that he had vitiligo. He had caught a case of vitiligo, okay? After he was diagnosed with vitiligo after the Pepsi incident, but that's down the line. So Mike was the first person to actually bleach. Well, no, there was other people that bleached their skin also in the entertainment industry at this time. But Mike was like the spokesman, the forefront, and you know, it was like something that wasn't heard of before. So they accounted it to vitiligo, okay? But actually, Mike, you know, vitiligo is not something that just pops up. I don't know if you guys are in the medical field and you know about this type of stuff. Let me know if vitiligo can actually just randomly pop up out of nowhere and, you know, basically cover your whole body from head to toe, okay? So we all know that was a fluke by the media, okay? it wasn't until this album here, Thriller, okay, was when Mike actually sold his soul to the devil. All right. I'm gonna get down to what really transpired here. Now, a lot of people don't understand the satanicness behind the song Thriller, okay? And that whole album was pretty sneak, it's like sneak tactics, okay? Where you don't even see or hear what's going on. Like, you guys know this artist, okay? Bill Haley. Okay, so you guys know this artist, Bill Haley. Okay? He had the song Rock Around the Clock. Alright? Rock Around the Clock. Now this came out, I believe, in the 50s or the 40s, sometime around there, and they were showing this on TV, the children. Okay? But the lyrics go 1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock. 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, rock. We're going to rock around the clock tonight. Now, rocking around the clock tonight, that means that you're fornicating, okay? Rocking around the clock. Rock around the clock, all right? Children were singing this, all right? So, so Thriller was a sneak tactic. Okay, it was probably the most highest sold album around that time. I don't know if Mike was actually the first person to sell all of those records at that time, but he did astronomical numbers. Okay, with that Thriller album. All right, I mean, it took off. All right, so when you see artists come out and they doing astronomical numbers, I don't care if it's YouTube videos, whatever, SoundCloud, 9 times out of 10, these people sold their soul, man. All right, and it's not a fluke. All right, it's not a fluke. So, you had songs on Thriller like Billie Jean is not my lover. She just a girl that thinks that I'm the one. But the kid is not my son, okay? This is Thriller Night, where he's worshiping the dead, all right? The video depicted him rising from the dead in a zombie-type figure, all right? And towards the end of the video, it shows that he's under possession of a demon, okay? His eyes start to glow, and he's under possession of a demon, all right? So this is when he took that oath. He's had a known Satanist on the song, Vincent Price. Vincent Price actually is the spokesman for satanic behavior, all right? And Michael Jackson put Vincent Price on the song, all right? So this album was Michael Jackson's introduction into, Luciferianism, as some would say, you know what I mean? And it wasn't until later on where Mike, agreed or thought that, he made a mistake. Now, mind you, he grew up a Jehovah's Witness, okay? So a lot of people that are Jehovah's Witness tend to rebel just off the simple fact is that, that religion is forced upon people, okay? It's forced, all right? So a lot of times you see these entertainers that say, oh, my mom was a Jehovah's Witness. Same thing with Prince. Michael Jackson, numerous of artists that were in the Jehovah's Witness. They go against the grain for the simple fact is that it's forced. It's that religion is forced upon you. So I'm going to continue on. Thriller comes out, does astronomical numbers. Mike is satisfied with, Paul McCartney showing him how to actually run the world, okay? You have to understand Paul McCartney had experience in this, all right? It came out November 30, 1982, all right? And that's around the time where he was introduced to the White Brotherhood. If y'all don't know what the White Brotherhood is, okay, this is a organization that's within the music business, okay? Just Google the White Brotherhood, all right? And go through the history if you have time of what the white brotherhood is, and just read that shit, okay? Just read it, and you'll have a clear understanding on a lot of what goes on in the entertainment industry. All right, so fast forward to 1984. All right, Michael Jackson goes through the burn situation where he did the Pepsi commercial. Okay, things are going up and up for him, but I believe the Pepsi commercial was actually Michael's humiliation ritual. Okay, now humiliation rituals take place on a stage. A lot of times they take place on stage where the artist is performing, and what will happen is the artist will either fall off the stage or something will happen to that artist on the stage. Okay, in this case, Michael took some sparks to his Jerry curl and caught third-degree burns in return. All right. With that being said, you know that, like I said, he's had to go through this process, you know, to prove himself. You know. Yeah. So here's where things get interesting, though. I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I do know that this is why Michael Jackson is no longer here with us, okay? So in 1985, right, a year later, and this is when they dropped, mind you, I don't want to skip over this. This is when they came out with that whole shebang of Michael Jackson having vitiligo, okay? But you didn't have vitiligo before you was, you know, off the wall and singing Ben and then the Jackson 5s. You know, I never saw any patches on him. You know, he wore a glove and things of that nature, but I've never seen, you know, Michael Jackson have spots that refer to vitiligo. So I don't know. I just never, you know, it's that story was suspicious. Okay, I think that the media did that to cover it up, but the simple fact was that he was taking Prince's place. Okay. At that time, Prince was actually the king of pop, okay? And, yeah, he was actually the king of pop. And Michael Jackson was going to be Prince's replacement, okay? I don't know what situation Prince went through at that time, but I know that Michael Jackson did his best to emulate his image to an extent and, you know, add a little bit of other things involved. So, 1985, right? Is when Michael took it upon himself to snake the industry that put him on. Okay? To snake the industry that put him on. He bought the catalog of Sony. Okay? This is when the beef with him and Sony started. Alright? And him and Paul McCartney's relationship fell out. Alright? Because now he owns the Beatles catalogs and so on and so forth. The Rolling Stones, all of these things, right? So this was what made Michael Jackson a target. Okay, I don't think that he intentionally bought it. He wanted to do it on purpose. I believe that Paul McCartney informed Michael about getting, you know, owning music publishings and things of that nature. You can buy it for cheap and then wait on it for a couple years and resell it, right? But I believe when he told Joe Jackson, God rest Joe Jackson's soul too, man. When he told Joe Jackson was like, buy it, but just get it, you know, because it was about being rich, you know what I'm saying? Him and Joe Jackson had a good relationship. You got to understand. That was, you know, he told Michael about the business, you know what I'm saying? Regardless of what was depicted on TV, maybe Joe Jackson was mean to them as children, but he gave Michael a good deal of information on how the industry worked. All right, so yeah, so at this point, you know, I believe that, you know, he kind of stabbed Paul McCartney in the back, you know what I'm saying, at that point in time, and you know, he's gonna have problems with Sony from this point forward, you know what I'm saying, so. I believe that he saw how grimy the industry was because he outsmarted them, and I believe that made him a target at that point in time. You know, even though he bought the catalog of the publishing for all of those artists fair and square for $47 million. Okay, he bought it at the time where Sony was actually going down. They were on a downslope, so the stocks and everything were lower. You know, $47 million is still a lot of money, but compared to how much Michael sold it down the line, is crazy. So we're gonna get to that also. All right. So he had the whole catalog, the whole entire catalog, Sony's catalog, for $47 million. Okay, he owned the whole thing. All right. You know, I guess somebody got wind of, you know, him outsmarting Sony, and Sony is now trying to come back now. You know, this is where you had certain things that were taking place in the music business. Things were changing, you know. Certain companies were leaving. You had Arista and all of these other companies, Virgin, all of these other record labels that went down a sinkhole at this time because Sony could not provide. All right. So 1993 happens, and this is where I believe that, you know, they wanted to defame Michael's character from some sort of rebellion that may have taken place. Okay. You know, with him having, and I don't know. I never saw that documentary with Oprah, but apparently, I never saw that documentary with Oprah, but apparently she interviewed the victims that were involved, and you know they gave their host. I never saw it, so I don't know what happened or what was said. But yeah, the child scandal comes out, you know what I'm saying, around 1993. This was a defamed character situation where they wanted to take Michael down. This is where I believe that, you know, they wanted that music catalog back, and, you know, Mike was not having it, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, with Paul McCartney going behind his back and saying, hey, Sony, man, how'd you just sell my catalog like that? That's crazy. You gave it to Mike? You know what I'm saying? And that caused some type of tension over there at Sony and with the Beatles and all the other company or artists. And this is what you also got to remember too. Like, the industry, the way it works is this. Like I tell y'all all the time. They want it to be in their bloodline. This is a legacy, okay? This is millions and millions and millions of dollars that you're talking about that will forever generate money, okay? Forever generate money. This is, like I said, this is a legacy that will forever generate money, millions and millions of dollars. So they don't mind selling it, okay, to their own, but you're not a part of the bloodline. So therefore, we can't give you this merchandise here, okay? And Michael looked at this catalog as art, okay? He didn't view it as an investment. He looked at it as art, okay? Which it was. It was art. It still is art. All right? And yeah, you know what I'm saying? I think that's what made him a possible target at that time by rebelling against the industry. And they basically told him, listen, you can't own the Beatles stuff, and you can't own this catalog, and we want it back. And he probably was like, no, why can't I own this? You know, and then and Michael got a taste of harsh reality of what goes on in the industry, you know, and blindly I'll say racism. You know, they probably told him, listen, you can't own this stuff. We need that back. This is, you know, I don't want to go and jump into detail, but hence the song where it came out in 1996. They don't really care about us. Okay, so see, Michael he thought he was in with them people, right? But when he realized that he wasn't in with them people, okay, this is when his harsh reality came. Okay, he had an eye-opening experience, and then now he wants to be a part of us now. Okay, but Michael's songs were always satanic. He always had songs that were satanic. Man in the Mirror, Just Another Part of Me, things of that nature. You Know Who's Bad, you know, Speed Demon. I mean, Dirty Diana. Who's Diana? Dirty Diana. Come on now, that's plain and obvious. All right. So once he's starting to rebel, it's becoming more of a problem to the industry. Okay, he's telling the general public that, you know, Sony is robbing him and ripping him off, and, you know, putting certain information out there. But it wasn't until, they cut Michael short. Now, Michael, around in the late 2000s, okay, right before his demise, he had a situation where he was borderline of going bankrupt, all right? Some of you may remember this and some of you may not. He was going bankrupt. That doesn't mean Michael was poor, but he had to file bankruptcy, okay? But just for the simple fact is that a lot of his songs weren't selling, okay? And, they once they put a scandal on you and people are like, boycott Michael Jackson, don't buy his albums anymore, then it kind of puts you in a bad space, okay? So yeah, I believe that once he realized this, he was like, okay, well, I'm going to sell this catalog of Sony. By this time, it generated $470 something million. Okay, so he made a drastic flip on that. All right, but here's the problem what Sony had with him. Okay, they didn't want to give that up. They didn't want to do half. They wanted the whole thing. Okay, all right. You have to understand. Michael was playing hot potato with Sony. Like, this is mine. I'm not giving you the whole thing. I'll give you half of it. I'm not giving you the whole thing. And he knew what he had. Okay, but they wanted all of that publishing back. All right. And when Michael told them no, he wasn't giving them the other half. Okay, because he sold half. Listen, I don't think y'all hearing what I'm saying. That catalog accumulated, it was worth $1 billion. Okay, that catalog alone was worth $1 billion. He sold half of it. Okay, he sold half of that catalog for $470 something million. So imagine if he would have sold the other half. Okay, that would have been nothing for them to give him $1 billion and call it a day. All right. But Mike didn't want the Billy. Okay, and you have to understand, when you see these artists when next thing you know they are billionaires and all of this stuff, there's when you playing in the elite's game, there are accountants, okay, that can give you tips on how to make way more money than you're making now, okay, and this is what usually happens. They have people that can put you in position to make more money. All right, so I guess once he started to rebel, Michael was playing the game for a long time, but once he started to rebel and it would not give that catalog back, that's what made him a target, okay? And they hired this guy, General Murray, to do the dirty work, all right? Someone told me that this guy, General Murray, was actually a part of the Brotherhood, okay? But I'm not sure on that. I haven't seen any visuals. If I do find one, I'll put it up. But yeah, this guy here, he was the fall guy, okay? He was the fall guy to take Mike out of here, all right? And they had to do it slick, all right? Now, apparently, this is what happens when, and like I said, man, I don't blame the artists for what they do, okay? Because when you sell your soul, you're at a low point, all right? But then when you realize that you made a mistake, you have to understand you made an obligation to follow through with this. You can't go back on your word now. And Mike was honest. He was honest, okay? So I believe, in conclusion, I believe that Sony was behind the death of Michael Jackson, okay? And I can say it for the family. I believe that Sony, Sony ATV was behind the death of Michael Jackson, okay? Because, like I said, they will take you out if this money is how they feed their family, okay? So when you sign these deals, and now Drake, just take Drake for example, okay? Drake cannot, he may own his masters, okay, but that publishing is what you royalties, okay? Royalties and things of that nature is definitely a different ball game here. All right, so I hope I touched on everything in conclusion and gave y'all, somewhat of a back history on what happened here. But yeah, be careful when signing deals and don't sell your soul to the devil, okay? I hope everybody has a blessed week, all right? You know, be safe. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Oh, I do want to thank someone also. Also, I want to thank Michelle for the Cash App. I greatly appreciate it. All right, so yeah, man. I got some fire videos over on the Patreon. If you want, go over there and check that out. I did a video on signs, symbols, and sacrifices. All right. So yeah, check me out over there, man. Hope everybody has a blessed day, man, and stay safe. Peace.